The gospel lesson today comes to us from Luke, and it's chapter 18, verses 9 through 14, and picks up right after we left off last week. This is the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. Jesus also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and regarded others with contempt. Two men went up to the temple to pray, said Jesus. One a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, was praying thus: God, I thank you that I am not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give a tenth of all my income. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even look up to heaven, but was beating his breast and saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his home justified rather than the other. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, but all who humble themselves will be exalted. May God bless the reading of this word. We need to clarify just a little bit. We talk a lot about the Pharisees, right? We have this thing with Pharisees, Sadducees, right? The word Pharisee comes from a Hebrew word that means separate, or those who separate themselves. Pharisees were part of the religious community of the day and experts on Jewish law. But for the most part, they were simply scholars and pietists. We tend to give Pharisees a very bad rap. However, whereas the priestly Sadducees taught the written Torah, or the law, that was the only source of revelation, the Pharisees admitted the principle of evolution. In other words, they allowed the law to be a little bit freer. That people, they thought, must use their reason in interpreting the Torah and apply it to all contemporary problems. Rather than blindly following the letter of the law, even if it conflicted with reason or conscience, the Pharisees harmonized the teachings of the Torah with their own ideas, or found their own ideas and then applied it. They interpreted the law according to its spirit. When in the course of time a law had become outdated or had been outgrown or superseded by changing conditions of the day, they gave it a new and more acceptable meaning, seeking scriptural support for their actions through a ramified system of hermeneutics, which is just a big way of saying they interpreted it differently. The Pharisees also maintained that an afterlife existed, which wasn't really present in the school of thought and Jewish thought at the day, and that God did punish the wicked and God rewarded the righteous in the world to come. Pharisees also believed in Messiah, who would herald in an era of world peace. Pharisees were, in a sense, blue-collar Jews, and they became the fathers of modern Judaism. Their stuff is still used today in synagogue. They felt that individual prayer was important. They believed that gathering in synagogues were important. They were educated scholars, as I said, many of them. And their hearts were, as much as any of our hearts can be, genuine. They were committed to their religion, committed to the law, committed to their God. They believed in what they were doing, trying to make the law accessible and sensible to everyone. And not for nothing, it doesn't sound too bad, right? They actually sound a lot like us. The problem was, of course, that they had started presuming what God wanted and what God didn't want. And therefore, they had an easy way of staying right with God and pointing out that even if silently they pointed it out, who wasn't right. Worse, they began interpreting the law for their own gain, for their own purpose, for their own pleasure. You often hear Jesus criticizing them for their loose interpretation of the law, making the law in Jewish religion and God more exclusive and more inclusive. The Pharisees liked being the ones, they liked being the people that others could rely on for things, all things God. You might remember in Luke in chapter 11, you heard previously this year, when Jesus says, "Woe to you, Pharisees, because you love the most important seats in the synagogues and respectful greetings in the marketplaces." Pharisees liked their status. They liked being known for their piety. They prayed often and prayed aloud so that everyone could hear. They liked being the one with all the answers. And so as we listen in on this Pharisee's prayer and its focus on the me, it makes more sense. Jesus even said he was standing by himself, his posture, his proud, self-sufficient, self-reliant on what he has done and what he has not done in order to have ticked off the boxes in his checklist of do and don'ts. And so the Pharisee was praying thus, "God, I thank you that I am not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give 1/10 of all my income. I've done more than what's expected, God. Aren't you proud of me?" And at first glance, you might think, well, what's wrong with that? I mean, acknowledging who you are and what you've done and telling God all about it, that's okay, isn't it? But here's the thing. The Pharisee was so worried about what he was doing or not doing and focused on his individual performance and his individual sin that he's actually exalting himself at the expense of another. He is perpetuating the notion that God is a God who will punish our misdeeds, and he's comparing and he's measuring. In essence, the Pharisee is justifying himself. But I haven't mentioned the tax collector yet. He had quite a different view of God. He didn't try to justify himself. He understood God to be a God who hears. He understood God to be a God who accepts, a God who forgives, a God who includes even someone like him. He knows the God who is revealed in the character of Jesus, a God in whom he is already justified as he is, no matter what. He compares himself to no one. He seeks no response from anyone. In fact, if you notice, he doesn't even repent. He doesn't even say that he's going to change. He knows he's a sinner, plain and simple. He takes from the poor, and probably he will keep doing it. He makes no bones about it. He recognizes himself to be a part of something bigger than his individual sin. He's part of a system of oppression and marginalization and violence that spans way beyond his individual performance. And so he simply asks for mercy. He's not trapped in dualistic thinking. He's not trapped in right and wrong, black and white, in and out. Instead, he takes the first step in stepping toward the one true God, by throwing himself on the mercy of God, whose justice extends to all, even to his enemies, even to him. I'm not saying that we don't acknowledge who we are before God. I'm not even speculating that we could try to say to God, we're doing something we're not supposed to, or we're doing something that we're supposed to, and that would make all that big a difference. I'm not saying that we don't try to be better people. I'm not trying to say that we don't do good things. We do. What I'm saying is there's a danger in our prayers, when you look at the Pharisee or when you look at the tax collector, to make our religion and our relationship with God into a very individualistic thing. I'm worried about me. I'm worried about what I do. I'm worried about how I look with God. And yes, I'm going to be nice to all of these people. I'm going to do good things. I'm going to work in the food pantry. I'm going to help as many people as I possibly can. And when I come to God at the end of the day, I can say, God, I did all these things. And I can feel good about myself. Except I'm not the one who justifies me. I'm not known or loved for my goodness. We have the same thing on the side of the tax collector. The tax collector, there's also a danger of falling into a very individualistic thing. God, I'm a sinner. Have mercy on me, I'm a sinner. We can be so busy confessing all of the things that we've done based on our performance. We're only focused on our performance. We're only seeing the things that we've done and done wrong. You want to talk about sin? I can play out individual and corporate sin till Tuesday and beyond. The problem with that is we can be so busy confessing, we never take any action toward the kingdom of God. We take no action toward making the world a better place. We take no action for worrying about whether or not the people are fed, or as long as we feel bad for not doing enough. It's not about us. It's about God. Anything we do, any performance we have, any behavior we exhibit, anything that is good or right that we happen to do comes as a response to knowing that we are loved unconditionally, that we are justified in God's eyes no matter what. That's how change happens. That's how repentance happens. That's how new life happens. That's how the world changes. One person at a time. You know, our identity, it doesn't lie in just what we do, right? Our identity, it's not wrapped up in how many people chant our name, how many people tell us, good job. How many times we get good accolades for our performance. How many people say to us, wow, your ministry is terrific. Our identity should be reflective of Jesus, who instead of standing with the Pharisee and patting him on the back and saying, great job, Pharisee, instead kneels with the tax collector and puts a hand on their shoulder and tells them that they are loved exactly as they are, and prays with them and offers them healing and hope. That's justification. May God bless you this morning.